that is going to have a huge impact on individual resellers thinking about entering the resale. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. I recently put out a video on the luxury resale market being dead, and I very much think that the luxury resale market is nothing like it was over the last couple of years. I think there's been a huge slowdown, and compared to what it was, it's effectively dead. I put out that video and I got a number of really interesting and informative comments on that video, and one of them led me to want to talk to you today in case you weren't aware of this, because I had absolutely no idea that this was happening, and I think this person who left this comment is absolutely right, and this is going to have a huge impact on individual resellers on the market or people looking to sell their own personal items. And this is a comment that was left by a viewer called Popsalot, and she talked about what I had said about the luxury resale market being effectively dead. All right, it will still exist in some form, and that's what I mean when I say I don't think it's gone or dead, but compared to the levels it were only a couple of years ago, it's basically now non-existent. And she said in her comment, "You're spot on with all of this. I used to do a ton of resale, good extra money. I could recycle my personal wardrobe frequently and not have to worry about fashion as an investment." And that's what a lot of us did. A lot of us would have bought bags or bought something thinking, well, if I only use it for a short time or if it doesn't work out, I can sell it on. This is a reason I did not know about, and I think this is going to have a huge impact on individual resellers. Popsalot goes on to say, resale sites started ratcheting up fees pre-pandemic and making resale much less profitable. Then the economy caused business loss. And this is where it gets very, very interesting. The final nail in the coffin was new reporting requirements in the US. Payment apps now report anyone who receives more than $600 to the IRS, and you have to file as a business on taxes or prove that you were selling personal items that you took a loss on. It was 200,000 prior to this, and I think that should read 20,000 prior to this. So it was 20,000 prior to this. Who wants to resell anything if it means you will have to hire an accountant to file your taxes? No one is reselling unless they are an actual business, and this is driving prices way up and creating a monopoly. Now, when I read that comment, I had no idea about any of this, but I thought to myself, if that is true, then that is going to have a huge impact on individual resellers thinking about entering the resale market. If you're selling now in the US, per this comment, on eBay or on Tradesy or on any of the other sites that they have in the US that are not companies, so not, for example, Fashion File selling a bag, or for example, using a consignment store, if you're personally selling any of your items and you get paid back through a site, for example, if you sell on eBay and you get paid back through PayPal or you get paid through Venmo, there now has been a reduction in the limit that you can earn, which used to be $20,000 down to $600. And I did a little bit of research to look into this more to see if this was accurate and what impact this is going to have on the resale market, and this person was absolutely accurate. Before 2021, it used to be that the third-party settlement organisations, which is what they're called per the legislation in America, and that is payment platforms such as PayPal, if we take that as an example. But if you sold through them or you got paid through them, once you had reached a limit of £20,000 and that payment had come from over 200 transactions, that third-party site then had a legal obligation to notify the IRS that you had reached those limits, and you would then be issued with a form that's called a 1099K or a 1099K, and that is a tax form that you would have to complete your taxes and file with the IRS in respect of the money that you had made from reselling. Now, you would have to be reselling an awful lot of your personal belongings to have over 200 transactions and make over $20,000. That's an awful lot of handbags, shoes, accessories, dresses, clothes, whatever. That's a huge amount. And I would think that the vast majority of us who were selling our own personal items are not going to reach limits like £20,000 or 200 transactions. Those limits, in my mind, are more geared at people that are selling as a business, people that are running eBay stores, people that are running consignment stores, and they're going to be having over 200 transactions, probably if they have a good year, or they're going to have over $20,000. I don't think too many individuals are going to reach those limits. But then we have lockdown. We have the impact of the pandemic on economies worldwide. We have the threat of a pending global recession and a pending global economic crisis. And one of the ways the American government responded to that was by issuing what's called the American Rescue Plan 2021. And one of the parts of that plan were to reduce those thresholds. And it cannot be that it was not in their mind that by reducing those thresholds, they were going to catch within the catchment limits, i.e. now under the £20,000 and 200 transactions, so many more people that were selling even infrequently, or selling personal items, or selling the odd thing here and there, or making a bit of money on a handbag, are now going to fall within the limits that have to be reported, whereas before they would have been quite safely outside the $20,000 and the 200 transaction limit. What that rescue plan did was reduce that limit to $600 and removed the requirement for 200 transactions. It doesn't matter if you have one transaction now. If you make from any of these third-party platforms, from eBay, from Venmo, from any of those that pay you the money from selling your items, if you receive $600, even on one transaction, that site is now legally bound to notify the IRS that you have received that $600 and you're going to be issued with this 1099K form or this 1099K form to file a tax return. Now, if you sold a Chanel bag, let's say, if you sold any designer luxury bag, you are going to most probably have earned more than $600 in one transaction, because it doesn't have to be $600 profit. The platform that pays you the money does not distinguish what you originally paid for the bag, if we're taking bags as an example. It is just if you received $600. So it doesn't matter what you paid for the bag, it's just what you receive. If you receive $600, they have to notify the IRS and you have to fill in this form. Now, if you did buy any of those items, take a luxury handbag for example, for more than what you actually received back, you will be able to file your return. You will have to prove that you paid more than that and you took a loss. And that will then negate the need for you to pay tax. Now, this is not tax advice, and if you're in this position, you will need to seek an accountant's advice unless you're able to do these tax returns by yourself. But if you have made a loss on anything that you've sold, you will then be in the position, as per the comment, as per what this person left for me, you will be in the position where you're going to have to show the IRS, actually, I paid X amount for all of these things, I only received Y, which is a loss, and therefore I'm not liable to pay taxes. But it is now going to give you that added onus that once you hit $600 coming into your account from any of these third-party sites, that you're going to have to file this return. Take Chanel bags now as an example. If you bought a Chanel classic flap, say 4 years ago, and you're selling it now, the likelihood is you're going to make a $600 profit on it or more if your bag is in good condition. Even if today's market, if you're selling it at a reasonable price, you're still going to probably make $600 or more. Now that if that is paid for you through one of these third-party sites and that's going to be reported to the IRS, you're going to have to pay or file your tax return on the money that you have made. Whatever the tax limits may be, you're going to have to fill all of this information in. Whatever you also earn on perhaps your day job, all of this is going to have to go to the IRS to be assessed on whether or not you pay any tax on the profit that you made on your Chanel bag. This is going to have, in my opinion, a huge impact on the individual resale market, as per the person who left this comment. If you are someone like you or I, that's just looking around your wardrobe and thinking, I don't really wear that bag, I don't really wear those shoes, that dress doesn't fit me anymore, I'm going to sell them on, say for example, eBay, and you get paid through PayPal. Now, once you reach £600 in a year coming into your account, you're going to be into the era where you have to consider accountants and you have to file your tax return and you have to deal with all of these things on this form and report this money. Now, I understand in America you have to file your tax return anyway, but it may be that that's simple, that you don't need an accountant, whatever. This is now just going to be an added requirement once you receive $600 or more into your account from one of these websites. There is of course always the option that you get paid through a direct transfer to your bank, but if you're an individual seller and you're selling on something like eBay or Poshmark or Tradesy, it's unlikely that a seller and a buyer, the buyer is going to send money directly to your bank account because they have no buyer's protection. And I think that's something that is not going to take away the people that this is going to catch. I think this reduction to $600 if you're selling anything is now going to catch a huge amount of people who would have been paid through these platforms on anything that they're selling. It may be that consignment stores, if you're selling with consignment stores, come up with a way to pay you that avoids this. That's not something I know very much about or I'm going to get into because it sounds like tricky tax grounds, but it is something you're going to have to now consider if you're thinking about selling any of your items in the US, because this reporting threshold has been reduced from $20,000 and 200 transactions to $600 and any number of transactions. This comes into place in the US from 2023. At the end of 2022 in December, the US government released an announcement that they were going to delay the introduction and they were going to class 2022 basically as a transition year. So in 2022, you were still going to be working under the old limits of the £20,000 and the 200 transactions. But from 2023, this year, anything that you're selling through these sites, the limit is going to be $600 in this form is going to issue. Now this comment I think was so informative, it led me to do this research and find out that this even existed. I am not based in the USA, so I did not know that this was a thing. I did not know that this was going to be impacting anybody selling individually when I made the video about the luxury resale market being dead or slowing significantly down. I do think this person is right. I do think this is going to have an impact on that and it's going to add to that. I do think anybody that knows about this, that is thinking about selling anything individually on any of those sites, is going to be thinking to themselves, do I want to have to deal with the hassle of filling in this tax form? Do I want to have to prove that I sold it at a loss? Do I even have the receipts to prove it? Do I still have all of my information? Do I have an accountant? Am I going to need an accountant to now enter into the era of filling in this form and doing everything you need to do with the IRS? So I do think there's going to be a lot of people that now think, I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm not going to clear out my wardrobe. I'm not going to eBay every couple of months. I'm not going to sell my clothes as they don't fit me anymore because I'm going to have to deal with all this tax information. Let's take a look at the second part of this comment and what this person was saying, that as well as slowing down the individual resale market and making people think twice, if not 3, 4, 5 times before they decide to sell out their wardrobes or to recycle their clothes or to sell on their bags, there's also that this leads on to the monopoly then that resale, especially luxury resale, is being driven by businesses and by consignment stores and by professional resellers who are having to deal with the tax information and file their taxes anyway. So this is not something that's really going to impact them because what they're going to have to do, they were already doing. And isn't this person right? Doesn't that then create a monopoly on the market as to who is selling these bags? Most of us would have known that if you could find an individual that you did your due diligence and you trusted them and you found it either through eBay or Poshmark or Tradesy or one of the other Facebook groups, and that was how you were going to get paid through one of these third-party websites, that you could get a far better deal on a bag through one of those sites dealing with an individual directly rather than if you went through a consignment store or a reseller. Obviously, consignment stores and resellers add to them some security and they add some peace of mind, but you're paying for that service because they are producing and providing a service. You're paying their time, their money, their effort, their work by being the third party that involves in this. But if you remove the amount of people who are prepared to sell as individuals and lead that all then to the resale market and the consignment market, when you create a monopoly in anything, is it not dangerous for what happens to prices because there is not the same competition of people selling bags? I still think the market's going to continue to slow down, although there may be a monopoly at the moment where in America, certainly given this new change to their laws, that there is going to be a lot more professional resellers selling the bags, and it does allow them to produce higher prices, put the prices up because they're in this monopoly. I do think they're going to come across the fact that people just can't pay it anymore. If we go back to all the reasons in that initial video that the luxury resale market is dead, a vast majority of people are just not going to pay those prices. I, for one, on the graffiti bag that I showed you in that video, just wasn't prepared to pay the price that it was being sold for. Regardless of the fact that I loved the bag, I wasn't prepared to pay £7,500, whatever it was, even though it was a bag that had been on my radar. And I think that's going to happen more and more. People are going to consider what the bag is, consider what the price is. We are in very difficult economic times. We're at times of a recession. We're in times when people are paying and struggling to pay for the necessities in life. People that used to have quite a lot of disposable income may find they don't have that now, and I think that's going to continue to have an impact on the resale market and people being able to pay those prices regardless of the monopoly that's created. But when you remove the individuals selling and producing deals and making more deals through Vestiaire, Facebook, eBay, it definitely must have an impact on the resale market. Thank you so much to Pops a Lot for leaving this really informative comment on this video. As I've said, this is not tax advice. If you are selling any of these things in the US, you're now going to have to take some advice because these limits have been lowered since this year and seem to come into effect from 2023. Thank you so much for giving us this information. I think it's something, especially if you're in the US, that you need to know, and I do think it adds to the conversation of the luxury resale market being dead. If you do have any comment on this or you have any more knowledge on this, please do come into the comment box and share it with us all so as we can all know what's going on and stay up to date with these things. If you have found this in any way informative or useful, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. I am doing a number of videos around this topic coming from comments. If you've enjoyed this, please do consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching me. Thank you for being here. And if you haven't had enough yet, I will leave another video on the screen for you. Please take care and I will see you again in the next one.